Welcome to my channel. Today's story is called An Alien Woman's Agony, and the human who risked everything to save her. It began on the distant mining colony of Vereen Prime, a barren world ruled by storms of glass and ash. Dr. Elias Ward was stationed there as part of the Terran Relief Corps, tending to the wounded survivors of the last war. One night, the alarm screamed through the base. An unknown life form had collapsed near the perimeter. When Elias reached the crash site, he found her, an alien woman with skin like liquid light and eyes that shimmered like burning silver. She was trembling, her breathing shallow, her body swollen and scarred from something unseen. As he lifted her from the dust, she whispered in broken English, "Please, don't let me die." He carried her inside the bunker, sealing the doors against the storm. Her pulse was fading, and the scanners failed to recognize her species. Elias worked through the night, hands shaking as he tried every treatment he knew. But her biology was alien. Human medicine burned her veins instead of healing them. Desperation became his guide. When he realized her bloodstream was collapsing from within, he turned to something forbidden: hybrid cell grafting. He infused his own stem cells, bridging their two bodies at a microscopic level. It was madness, but as the hours passed, her breathing steadied. Her body responded, not rejecting him but accepting him. And when she opened her eyes again, she looked at him not with fear, but with recognition. Days turned to quiet recovery. The alien woman, who called herself Nira, began to speak more clearly, her voice melodic and haunting. She told him that her kind were hunted for the energy within their blood, energy so potent it could power worlds or destroy them. Elias listened in silence, realizing that her wounds were not just physical but born of betrayal. He promised to protect her, even if the human command discovered what he had done. When she smiled faintly and said, "You risked your world for me," he only replied, "Some things are worth more than orders." Their bond deepened, built not on duty but on something unspoken. Something that grew stronger each time he touched her hand to check her pulse. But peace never lasts long in a war-born world. The Terran Council detected strange readings from his lab and sent a security team to investigate. They demanded he surrender the alien, calling her dangerous, a threat to humanity. Elias stood between them and Nira, refusing to move. When they threatened to kill her, the energy within her body began to surge, cracking the air like thunder. Her pain returned, her body glowing with unstable light. Elias rushed to her side, shouting over the chaos, trying to stabilize the fusion between them. His body burned as her power flowed into him, the grafted link between their blood sparking to life again. He screamed, not from agony, but from feeling her pain as his own. When the light finally faded, the soldiers were gone, the bunker half destroyed. Elias lay on the floor, barely breathing, while Nira hovered over him, her tears falling like drops of silver. "You gave me life," she whispered. "Now I must give you mine." She placed her glowing hand over his heart, and warmth flooded through him. His vision blurred, but he could see her smiling, radiant, unafraid. Their bond completed in that moment, her energy stabilizing within him, her essence merging with his. When he awoke later, she was gone. Her body dissolved into light, but her voice remained in his mind like an echo that never faded. Years later, when he returned to Earth, Elias was no longer the same. His eyes shimmered faintly like hers, and his touch could heal where science failed. People called him a miracle doctor, but he knew better. He was living proof of love that defied biology, politics, and fear. And every night, when he closed his eyes, he could still hear her whisper, "You risked everything, and I gave you forever." Thank you for watching this story. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more romantic and emotional sci-fi tales. Your support keeps these stories alive. Until next time, stay curious and stay human. The second part begins in the dim light of the medical bay, where the silence was broken only by the steady hum of machines. Elias sat beside Nira, watching the faint glow beneath her skin pulse in rhythm with her heartbeat. He had done what no human doctor had ever dared, merged his biology with an alien's. The thought alone should have terrified him, yet he felt something entirely different. An invisible pull, a strange warmth that lingered every time their hands brushed. She was recovering, but each breath she took seemed to echo through him as well, like their bodies were now bound by something deeper than science. When she opened her eyes again, he saw gratitude, fear, and something softer, trust. Her fingers trembled as she touched his wrist, whispering, "You gave me part of your life. Why?" He hesitated before answering, his voice quiet. "Because I couldn't watch you die." Days passed, and Nira's strength returned slowly. The swelling that had crippled her began to fade, replaced by new vitality. Yet Elias noticed his own body changing too. His veins shimmered faintly under his skin, and sometimes he could feel her emotions even when she didn't speak. When she felt pain, his chest tightened. When she smiled, warmth spread through him like sunlight. One night, as he ran another scan, she said softly, "Your cells are adapting to mine. You're becoming something new." He tried to laugh it off, but her gaze lingered on him, knowing he understood the truth. Their isolation deepened the bond. Outside, the storms raged endlessly, trapping them together beneath the planet's broken crust. They shared stories during the long nights, Elias speaking of Earth's oceans, Nira of her people's gardens that glowed beneath twin suns. She described how her species shared emotion through touch, how connection was sacred. When she placed her hand over his chest to feel his heartbeat, something within both of them shifted. Neither spoke after that moment, afraid of what it meant, but neither looked away. The next morning, he found her standing by the observation window, the storm reflecting in her silver eyes. "Your kind would destroy me if they knew what I am," she said. Elias walked closer, his voice steady but filled with quiet fire. "Then I'll make sure they never find out." She turned to him, tears shimmering along her cheeks, her voice breaking as she whispered, "You can't protect me forever, human. They will come." He reached out, brushing her tears away gently, feeling the warmth of her skin against his fingertips. "Then let them come," he said softly. "They'll have to go through me first." The tension between them thickened, charged like electricity. It wasn't just compassion anymore. It was something alive, dangerous, and undeniable. That night, as the storm outside howled and the lights flickered across the walls, Nira lay awake listening to his heartbeat through the quiet hum of the machines. Every breath he took reminded her that he had risked everything for her. His career, his humanity, his life. And for the first time in centuries, she allowed herself to feel what her people had long forbidden: love for someone not of her kind. The third part unfolds in the soft glow of the laboratory lights, where the storm outside had quieted to a low, endless hum. Elias sat beside Nira, exhaustion heavy in his eyes but peace lingering in his expression. Her recovery was almost complete. The pain that once consumed her was fading, yet something new had begun to grow between them, something both beautiful and dangerous. Whenever their eyes met, the air seemed to still, and when she smiled, his heart raced in ways no science could explain. She was radiant again, her silver skin glowing softly under the lights, her movements graceful but hesitant, as though she were afraid to step too close to the man who had saved her. That night, Nira spoke of her homeworld, how it once shimmered like a living ocean of crystal plains before her people were hunted. Her voice wavered as she described being captured, used for experiments, her body drained for the energy her kind produced. Elias clenched his fists, anger rising at the cruelty she endured. He wanted to promise her safety, but he knew he couldn't promise the galaxy's mercy. Instead, he took her hand and said quietly, "You'll never be a specimen again, not while I'm breathing." Her fingers curled around his, her touch soft but full of emotion, and for a brief moment, neither spoke. The silence carried more meaning than words could hold. Over the following days, the bond between them deepened beyond medicine. Nira began helping in the lab, her energy guiding his repairs, her presence calming the storms that once terrified him. He found himself listening to her heartbeat as he worked, realizing it had become the rhythm that steadied his life. One evening, when the power flickered and the lab fell into half-darkness. She moved close to him, her eyes glowing faintly in the gloom. "You risked everything to save me," she whispered, her voice trembling. "But what if saving me costs you your humanity?" He smiled faintly, shaking his head. "Maybe humanity isn't something you lose. It's something you share." In that instant, something broke open between them. Nira reached up, touching his face with both hands, her fingertips warm and trembling. He didn't pull away. Their connection pulsed through the air, a quiet exchange of emotion and energy that neither could stop. Her breath mingled with his, her voice soft as she murmured, "Then let me share mine." The moment stretched, fragile and infinite, as the storm outside began to rise again, the thunder echoing like a heartbeat. And when the lightning flashed through the window, Elias saw her smile, gentle, unguarded, filled with a kind of love that defied both science and fear. That night, the world outside no longer mattered. In that hidden bunker on a dying planet, a human and an alien found something far greater than survival. They found belonging, two souls colliding in a universe that had forgotten what it meant to feel. The fourth part begins with dawn creeping through the shattered skylight, casting a pale silver light over the lab where Elias and Nira lay side by side in the quiet aftermath of everything unspoken. The air felt alive between them, humming faintly with the echo of their connection. Nira stirred first, her fingers tracing the faint glow now running beneath Elias's skin, light that wasn't there before. He looked at her, half in awe, half in disbelief, realizing that her essence had fused with his more completely than either of them intended. She smiled softly, though sadness lingered behind it. "You've taken part of me," she whispered, "and I've taken part of you." Elias reached up, brushing a strand of her hair aside. "Then maybe we were supposed to." Their closeness grew with each passing day. She began to sense his thoughts before he spoke them, and he could feel her emotions ripple through him like waves of heat and light. The bunker had once felt like a cage, but now it was a sanctuary, a place where two broken lives had found harmony. Yet even peace has its shadow. Nira had begun to weaken again, her glow dimming at the edges. Elias ran tests, panic in his chest as he saw her cells destabilizing. The bond that saved her life was now consuming her. Her body was trying to return the energy she'd given him, draining herself to keep him whole. When he confronted her, she didn't deny it. "I knew this would happen," she said quietly, her eyes reflecting sorrow and acceptance. "My kind can heal through bonding, but only once. The connection isn't meant to last forever. You were never supposed to keep my light." His heart ached at her words. "Then take it back," he said, voice breaking. "Take whatever you need." She shook her head, smiling faintly, and touched his cheek. "If I take it back, you die. If I let you keep it, I fade." Her tears shimmered as they fell, glowing trails vanishing into the dust between them. Elias couldn't accept that. He worked feverishly through the night, using her knowledge to stabilize her cells, fusing Terran nanotech with her energy patterns. Nira tried to stop him, begging him to rest, but he refused. "You saved me," he whispered. "Now it's my turn." As his hands trembled over the console, she came behind him and wrapped her arms around him, resting her forehead against his back. "Elias," she murmured, her voice breaking, "you can't fight the universe." He turned, meeting her gaze, and said, "Then I'll rewrite it." For the first time, she believed him. They worked together, merging their sciences, combining human ingenuity with alien instinct. When they finished, she was barely standing. Elias carried her to the med table, their bond pulsing faintly like a fading heartbeat. She looked up at him, her voice barely above a whisper. "If this fails, you'll die with me." He smiled through tears. "Then we fail together." As he activated the final sequence, light erupted around them, filling the bunker with the same brilliance that had first saved her life. And as everything turned white, Nira's last words reached him, soft, trembling, full of love. "You were never my cure, Elias. You were my reason." The fifth part begins in the aftermath of that blinding light, when silence fell heavy over the ruins of the bunker. Smoke curled through the air, and the hum of machines had faded into stillness. Elias lay on the cold floor, his breath shallow, his body trembling with exhaustion. His skin shimmered faintly beneath the layer of ash, veins glowing with the same silver hue that once flowed through Nira. When he turned his head, she was beside him, alive, but barely. Her glow had dimmed to a faint pulse, her energy nearly gone. He reached for her hand, and she smiled weakly, whispering, "You did it. You gave me back the stars." Her voice was soft, fragile, but it carried warmth that made his heart ache. He wanted to hold her forever, but her body was fading, becoming translucent, as though the universe itself was taking her back. She told him that his reckless act had changed the balance of their bond. Instead of dying, their energies had fused completely, and now they existed as one shared life. Her form could not remain in the physical world, but her essence would live inside him, through every heartbeat and breath he took. Tears welled in Elias's eyes as he begged her not to go. "Please, I can't lose you. Not after all this." Nira reached out, her touch warm and light as air, resting her palm against his chest. "You'll never lose me," she whispered, "because you are me now." Her voice trembled with both sorrow and peace, her eyes glowing softly as she added, "Promise me you'll live, Elias. Not as my savior, but as yourself." He nodded, though his throat felt tight, his heart breaking beneath the weight of her fading warmth. The storm outside began to quiet, the ground trembling with a strange harmony. The energy field around the bunker rippled, transforming the dead soil into patches of soft blue light. The world was healing, reborn from the power they shared. Elias lifted her in his arms one last time, feeling her heartbeat sync with his until they became one rhythm. "You changed everything," he said through tears. "No," she whispered faintly. "You reminded me what it means to feel alive." Then she closed her eyes, her body dissolving into particles of light that flowed into his chest, leaving behind only a faint scent of rain and starlight. Elias fell to his knees, shaking, whispering her name into the silence. For a moment, he thought she was gone completely, until he heard her voice, clear, soft, inside his mind. "I'm here." He looked up, eyes wide, realizing he could feel her presence within him. Her warmth filled the air around him, steady and calm, and though she no longer stood beside him, her energy pulsed in his veins, alive and real. The planet's surface began to glow with a gentle radiance, the once dead skies breaking open to reveal distant stars. Elias stood slowly, feeling her strength guiding his steps. He understood now this was not the end, but the beginning of something greater. He gathered what remained of their tools, their work, and set out toward the horizon, the storm finally gone. The air was clear, the wind soft, carrying her voice with it, whispering words only he could hear. "Keep walking, my human. I'll see through your eyes now." And as he took his first step into the light, Elias smiled through the tears, knowing that love, no matter how alien, never truly dies. It simply changes form, waiting to be found again. The sixth and final part begins in the silence after rebirth, where the horizon of Vereen Prime glowed with soft blue light instead of the storms that once tore its skies apart. Elias walked through the ash plains that were no longer dead, the soil now pulsing with faint veins of life that shimmered under his boots. The air carried a warmth he hadn't felt since Earth, and when he breathed it in, he could sense her Nira, inside every heartbeat, every whisper of wind. Her voice wasn't gone. It was woven through his soul, a steady calm that spoke whenever his heart faltered. "You kept your promise, Elias," she whispered from within, and he smiled faintly, whispering back, "We kept it." He made his way back to the Terran base, though it looked nothing like before. The scientists who once worked beside him stared in disbelief when they saw him alive. His eyes shimmered silver, faintly glowing under the sterile lights. His touch healed wounds they couldn't explain. His presence calmed the machines that had malfunctioned for years. They ran tests, called him a miracle, a hybrid, a symbol of a new era, but Elias didn't care for their words. He cared only for the voice that lingered in his thoughts, the gentle hum that connected him to the woman who'd given him both life and purpose. He left the base quietly one night, unable to stay where bureaucracy demanded explanations for miracles. He walked across the restored plains where flowers of light had begun to bloom, each petal pulsing like a memory. As the wind moved through them, he could almost see her, Nira's form flickering in the glow, smiling the way she did when she first woke in his care. He knelt, pressing his palm to the ground, feeling her pulse beneath it. "You didn't die," he whispered, tears shining in his eyes. "You became everything." The air shimmered faintly around him, and her voice replied, "And you became my forever." Time passed differently after that. Some said Elias became something beyond human, a traveler who healed dying worlds, carrying with him the essence of a forgotten alien queen. Wherever he went, new life bloomed, and those who met him spoke of a warmth that felt alive, like love itself had taken form. He never denied it. When people asked how he could do what he did, he simply said, "Because someone once taught me that love isn't bound by form, by race, or by death. It's energy, and energy never fades." As he stood beneath a sky filled with twin moons, the stars reflected in his silver eyes, Elias smiled quietly. Somewhere in the wind, Nira's laughter echoed again. Soft, radiant, eternal. And for the first time since that fateful night, he felt whole. Thank you for listening to this story. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more romantic and emotional sci-fi tales. Your support keeps these stories alive. And as always, stay curious, stay brave, and stay human.